Oh, it's another day here at the Comeback Team Studios. This is your host, Bek Lover, and you're watching another episode of Interesting Times podcast on the Bek Lover Podcast, where I gather all the interesting stories, all the headlines, all the gossip, all the rumors. And I got an action-packed episode today. I'm going to talk to you about the presidential debate yesterday. I'm going to talk to you about all kinds of things that are happening and a possible expansion of the war in the Middle East and what it means for me and you and what it could mean. We live in such a crazy, hectic world. We don't even need to watch movies because reality is definitely stranger than fiction. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I do all the homework for you. I keep you in the know, and I try to make it as interesting and entertaining as possible. So welcome to another episode. Let's jump right into it. Last night was the 2024 U.S. presidential debate between former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden. It was very painful to watch. It was very sad to watch. And I truly feel like watching that debate proved to me that we are probably in the end of this country, the way things are going. I noticed that while I was watching the debate, and I'm going to include the link to the debate on this episode for those of you that are watching. You can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Rumble, you can watch on Spotify. If you go to the debate around the 1 hour 16 mark on the link that I'm going to include, you're going to hear what I know I heard, and now I've confirmed that millions of people also think they heard, which was a passing of gas by one of the candidates. It's probably the most important fart in the history of America, because the way things are going, we might not have another presidential election. But as hard as it was to watch, seeing Joe Biden struggling to even speak, man, by default, if these are the only two candidates we have, because I don't think Robert F. Kennedy really has a real shot here. I mean, just from health and cognitive abilities, you gotta go with Trump, right? If you're picking the lesser of two evils here. Just from a health and mental capacity, this guy, Joe Biden, he's just not there, man. But forget all that for a second. Who laid what I believe to be the most important fart in the history of America during the most important debate in presidential history probably ever since, the past? Let's take a look at this. You ready? Listen closely. It's very subtle. Now, supposedly one mic's off when the other person's talking, which would mean automatically Donald Trump is the one that farted. But there's other scenarios. Maybe the mic wasn't shut off right away for Joe Biden when he was speaking. Sometimes they release the mic before the other person's done talking. So can we really rule out who laid the fart? Number two, it does seem like it might have been Trump because he hesitates for like a millisecond. But at the same time, if you look at Joe, he kind of like quivers a little bit in his lips. Like I can't figure it out. Who do you think laid this fart during the most important debate in the history of the United States of America and modern history? Let's take a look at the footage. You ready?
Deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
It's right there.
And we saved our steel industries.
You hear that?
From fentanyl.
1 hour, 16 minutes, and 25 seconds. You hear what clearly sounds like a wet, disgusting fart, or what's known as a shart, where you literally, when you hear that sound, water usually comes out of your ass. Listen closely again.
He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money.
You hear that?
He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
Someone was trying to say in my comments when I posted this on Twitter. By the way, follow me on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, on X at Bek Lover NYC. oh, it sounds like someone was drinking a glass of water. Neither of them are drinking a glass of water. Even if the moderator is, that does not sound like a glass. That sounds like a wet, slippery shart between two butt cheeks, okay? The question is, which of these guys that controls the destiny of the free world could not hold, because they're both over the age of 70. You know, your pipes, it's not working like they used to, okay? One of these guys ripped ass in front of the entire fucking world, okay? Who do you think it was? Drop a comment below. Crazy. Now, what else I found crazy is our country is literally falling apart in every single component, from open borders to crime through the roof in major cities like New York, Chicago, San Fran, to inflation, to possible all-out World War III. We're literally either in already, fifth generational warfare, or about to be in a hot war with Russia and its allies, the way things are looking, okay? And what are these guys debating each other about? Who's better at golf? Now, isn't it nice, two rich motherfuckers, while the whole world is struggling, to sit there and debate who has a better handicap in fucking golf? I could not believe, besides the fart, I could not believe what I was witnessing being debated by the two most important people in our country. This is fucking sickening, is what it is.
I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
Unreal.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4".
His mic's off.
Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
So this is how Biden wants to prove that, because he can't talk, he freezes up and makes these expressions like he's gone mentally. He wants to prove to us, the American people, that the reason why he's in good shape is because he's handicapped in golf. Handicap means, I'm not a professional golfer, but your handicap is like the level of skill that you have. So he got his handicap down to 6. This is what makes him fit to be president, when clearly I don't think he is.
But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest rival. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Now he's an 8.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You are
to
a
a
child.
specific concern.
It's just, man. Oh, America, if you think that a man in that Oval Office is going to save us, even if Donald Trump was Jesus Christ himself, unless the rest of the politicians who are career politicians who have been in power for 20 to 40 years and lobbying's made illegal, term limits are instituted, and we stop spending money on all these wars and destruction and turn this ship around quickly, we are doomed. Countries around the world are falling apart. There's attempted coups. There's wars. Everything is like boiling. And whoever's in office in these next 4 years, I mean, my true opinion, we're fucked. That's my honest to God opinion. It does not matter who wins. We are fucked unless me and you can come together. But that's what they don't want. Throughout history, they got us focusing on each other's colors, races, religions, sexual preferences. Okay, they got us at each other's throats. And unless something's done, I'm telling you, we are in serious, serious, serious trouble. I'm talking Great Depression, full collapse, dollar collapse, all-out war around the world, because what we have left is weapons. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Drop a comment. You have hope? You really think that either of these guys can save the country? It's more than that, man. They're already starting to set up Gavin Newsom. I spoke about this last year. If he's president, God help us. He's that fake corporate guy, like, you know, the kind of people you deal with when you work in the corporate world, that smile on your face. And meanwhile, they're plotting how to destroy you and use you. This guy showed his colors when the whole country was shut down, fining people for not masking while he was out eating and drinking and celebrating without a mask on, just like Nancy Pelosi in the same state. Okay, I mean, what more do you want to know about these people? They lie literally to your face. No, I was outdoors. He was never outdoors. He was indoors when you were not allowed to be that close unmasked. So that's all you need to know about Gavin Newsom, besides the fact that his state is a disaster, a complete disaster, the most taxed state in the country, homelessness everywhere, crime everywhere, demoralized police force. And the only place that's safe and feels good in California is Orange County, which is the most conservative place I've ever been to, in many ways more than Texas and parts of Florida. Like, I'm talking about far right, but you go there, you feel safe. You don't even see cigarette butts on the street. Like, I'm talking about Laguna Niguel, Costa Mesa, like, beautiful. So after Thursday night's debate performance, one thing is crystal clear. The National Democratic Party must immediately announce they will seek to replace President Joe Biden as the presumptive candidate. We can do better than this. There are nearly still 2 months before the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. It would be a Hail Mary play for the ages. Bring Newsom in to save the day. Like a handsome Hollywood leading man. I mean, man, who writes this shit? The Sacramento Bee. Of course they're going to write that. That's in his home state. My God, if this guy becomes president. My God, what will happen to America? Places like San Francisco have become unlivable. New York City is a disaster. CNBC and many of the top media outlets reporting, here are the 10 most livable cities in the world, and Europe dominates the list. For the third year in a row, Vienna, that's in Austria, the capital of Austria, is the world's most livable city. The annual report aims to show how comfortable or livable a city and examine 173 cities globally based on 30 indicators organized into 5 categories: stability, healthcare, culture and environment, education, and infrastructure. Here are the 10 most livable cities in the world, according to the EIU. Vienna, Austria, first place. Copenhagen, Denmark, second. Zurich, Switzerland, third. Melbourne, Australia, fourth. Calgary, Canada, fifth. Geneva, Switzerland, sixth. Sydney, Australia, 7. Vancouver, Canada, 8. Osaka, Japan, 9. 10. Auckland, New Zealand. New York City, not a single city in the United States of America made the top 10 list. Imagine that. Not a single city made it into the top 10. And we're the world's leading in quality of life and freedom and all this bullshit. No, because at least in those nations, they tax the shit out of them the same way we do, but they actually get stuff for it. Not tax us and then create a slave welfare class that will stand up for nothing, protect nothing, because they don't want to endanger their free handouts every month. To show you why New York City, which used to be one of the most amazing places in the world, I've lived here my whole life, I don't recognize my city anymore. Let me remind you why New York didn't make the list. Here's the New York Post reporting, bandits storm New York City restaurant and rob diners as shocked dinner crowd looks on. Let's see what people feel about living in New York City.
We're out here on the sidewalks today talking to New Yorkers about crime in the city.
It's terrible. Can't go in the train in the morning without some disgruntled person bothering you or somebody acting crazy. The city needs a lot of help.
Because I've had somebody come up to me one time and they just started threatening me and then they pulled a knife out on me, and yeah, it's really scary. Like, for me as a guy, like, I can't imagine for a lady.
I definitely feel like it has increased. Like, you know, I carry pepper spray in my bag just in case, because you just never know.
I feel like that's what makes us New Yorkers. Like, we're tough. We're built for the city. You know what I mean? Tourists, on the other hand, you know, they might not be used to this.
In New York, we're so, like, numb to the things that are going on now because it's happening so frequently. That's why a lot of people have the perception that New Yorkers are so, like, hard or cold-blooded, is that we're so used to seeing the same things every day.
Almost like once a week, we get, like, the public safety announcements of, like, there's been a crime around your area, like, involving a student.
How does that make you feel?
Scared and, like, anxious to go outside alone.
I feel incredibly safe here.
Can you elaborate on that? What makes you feel safe?
There's somebody around all the time if I need help.
I know some of my
I feel safe here because I probably don't even have to ride the subway because mommy and daddy helped me get a nice apartment on the Upper East Side. And I never take public transportation because I am a clear example of white privilege, I guess. Let's use it. I'm not a big fan of that terminology because I think it's bullshit in many ways, but let's use that terminology against her.
My colleagues don't feel safe. They live in other areas. They don't even come down to the city unless it is for work.
New York City to me has always felt like a place where bad things could happen, but if you're kind of savvy, like they say, keep your head on a swivel, you could be okay.
I know there was a trend for a while where I saw like everyone posting like, oh my God, I just got punched in the face. It happened to my uncle. He was walking with my aunt. Some guy just randomly walked up to him and like rocked him in the face. It's terrifying.
I was questioning her New Yorker until she said he got rocked in the face. That's definitely like a New York way of saying you got knocked the fuck out. In any event, that's why New York City sucks. What else sucks is that the war that started with Gaza on October 7th and the Palestinians and Israelis is probably 99.9% going to be a full-blown war again with the people of Lebanon. This war is expanding. It also explains why Israel is imposing a draft on their Orthodox Hasidim community who have stayed out of military service to study the yeshiva, and they don't want to be involved in violence. I guess they really believe in the Ten Commandments like every Jew, Christian, and Muslim should. So, unfortunately, they're going to be forced to go to war, and I think your children will be too. Because if this thing explodes into an all-out war in the Middle East, they just started doing the drafting again here in the United States of America. So if you have a child that's 15 years old to the age of 25, you should be very concerned and paying attention to what's going on around the world, especially with everything in Ukraine and Russia and Yemen. So this war looks like it's about to expand. Like I've been telling you on this channel since day one, it will not stop with just Gaza and the Palestinians. A large-scale confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah is likely to break out in the next several weeks. This is Politico.com. And Hamas, if Jerusalem and Hamas fail to reach a ceasefire deal, U.S. officials are trying to convince both sides to de-escalate, a task that would be significantly easier with ceasefire in place in Gaza. But the agreement is in tense negotiations, and U.S. officials are not confident Israel and Hamas will agree to a deal on the table in the near future. Both sides have publicly said they do not want to go to war, but senior Biden officials increasingly believe that intense fighting is likely to break out despite efforts to try and prevent it. The risk is higher now than at any other point in recent weeks, according to another U.S. official, who, like others in the story, was granted anonymity, hate some of these words, to speak freely about sensitive intelligence. So, that's bad news. What else is bad news in that region? Another ship was attacked, this is reported by the Associated Press, in the Red Sea in the latest maritime assault carried out by the Yemen Houthi rebels. As you can see here, they have a very strategic area in the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. A ship traveling through the Red Sea on Thursday reported being hit in an attack carried out by Yemeni Houthi rebels. The ship issued a radio call off the coast, and basically a warship in the area was responding to the attack. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center later also confirmed the attack. The rebels have targeted more than 60 vessels by firing missiles and drones in their campaign that has killed a total of 4 sailors. They seized 1 vessel and sank 2 since November. Okay, that also affects all of us because shipping and all that has been now rerouted, more expensive, more costly to get goods. You think the world doesn't affect us, but it does. We live in a global economy because we allowed our amazing economy to be exported out for the profitability of corporations and the politicians that they lobby. So American workers and our economy were not protected. We now depend on the world for many things that we never had to depend on them for in the last 70, 80 years. That is why America is much weaker today than it was 30, 40 years ago. And it's disgusting. The U.S. readies to evacuate Americans from Lebanon if fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies. The Pentagon is moving U.S. military assets closer to Israel and Lebanon to ready to evacuate Americans as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies. Okay, the move comes as tensions continue to mount and cross-border fire increases between Israel. So they're telling Americans to get out while they can. The Sudan is, in my opinion, has been so neglected. No one talks about what's going on over there. But there's so many people about to starve to death. This conflict is just getting worse. I'm going to play a little soundbite for you. Here we go.
That may be an hunger crisis.
Here we go.
That may be about to get worse. That's according to a global hunger monitor backed by the United Nations on Thursday. Its latest analysis showed a realistic chance of famine in 14 areas across the country if the war
Sudan.
escalates. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, says more than half the population is experiencing a hunger crisis. Around 750,000 people are projected to be in catastrophe, the most severe level of extreme hunger. The World Food Programme reported that some Sudanese are already eating leaves and soil to survive. On Thursday, it called Sudan's hunger crisis the worst in the world. Eddie Rowe is the WFP's director in Sudan.
We are in a race against time, not only to have enough resources, but also to be able to deliver these resources to people who are on the verge of starvation. We are looking at half of the country. Over 25 million Sudanese are categorized as acute food insecure.
Rain Paulson is a director with the UN's Food and Agriculture.
Just heartbreaking shit, man. It's just 25 million people to starve to death. So many times here in America, I swear to God, we go to the restaurant, our plates are like this, we throw half the shit in the garbage. I mean, there's so much food waste, and I always, man, I just like, God forgive me. Like, I hate throwing out, I swear to God, a grain of rice. We take so many blessings for granted. The life that we have, the opportunities that we have, when people are just worried about getting something to eat, and we curse our country, and we don't stand up for it, and we don't protect this beautiful, amazing country that gave us all a chance and lifted so many people above poverty, not only in this country, throughout the entire world. And for us to be in the situation that we're in now, this could be our future if this country perishes. Scary times, my friend. Interesting times indeed. Now, we always hear about the Christian and Muslim and Jewish perspective of the end of the world, but Native Americans have had a big day based on their faith. Tribes honor the birth of a rare white buffalo and reveal its name, Wakangli. Reported by NPR, there's a picture of the calf, it's a white buffalo. In a gathering near a picturesque lake outside Yellowstone National Park, hundreds of people have cheered Wednesday as a Native American leader spoke the name revealed on a painted hide for a rare white buffalo that was born in the park earlier this month, which means return sacred in Lakota. Wakangli is the name of the buffalo. It means return sacred. The moment marked the highlight of Native American religious ceremony to commemorate the calf's birth that also featured dancing, drumming, singing, and the retelling of how a mysterious woman brought a message of reassurance during hard times. To several of the tribes who revere American bison, they call them buffalo. The calf's appearance was both the fulfillment of sacred prophecy and a message to take better care of the earth. At most, only a handful of people got a look at the calf soon after its birth. Fewer still got photos to prove its existence. The calf has not been seen since. So, this is a very momentous time in our history when this white buffalo calf with black nose, black eyes, black hooves is born. White calves are unusual but not unheard of on buffalo ranches as a result of interbreeding between buffalo and cattle. White bison in nature are another level of rare, with none known in Yellowstone, the continent's largest wild reserve of the animals. This calf came after a severe winter in 2023, drove thousands of Yellowstone buffalo to lower elevations. More than 1,500 were killed, sent to slaughter, or transferred to tribes seeking to reclaim stewardship over an animal their ancestors lived alongside for millennia. So, interesting. Associated Press, judge stops parents' effort to collect on $50 million Alex Jones owes for saying Newtown shooting was a hoax. A federal bankruptcy judge on Thursday stopped an effort by the parents of a boy killed in a Sandy Hook elementary school shooting to begin collecting on some of the $50 million they won in a lawsuit from Alex Jones. Lawyers for Scarlett Lewis and Neil Hazen, whose 6-year-old son Lewis died in 2012, Connecticut shooting, had obtained an order from a state judge in Texas earlier this month, allowing them to begin collecting some assets from Jones' company, InfoWars' parent Free Speech Systems. But the U.S. Bankruptcy judge Christopher Lopez in Houston said Thursday that the state's judge ruling conflicts with federal bankruptcy law. Lopez said a new trustee appointed to oversee the liquidation of Jones' personal assets now has control of Jones' ownership and free speech systems. Lopez said the trustee, Christopher Murray, has authority under federal law to sell off the company's assets and distribute the proceeds equally among all of Jones' creditors, including other relatives of Sandy Hook victims who were awarded more than $1.4 billion in a similar lawsuit. Jones has about $9 million in personal assets, according to the most recent financial filings. Free Speech Systems has about $6 million in cash on hand and about $1.2 million worth of inventory. Bankruptcy lawyers for Jones said his company did not immediately return messages seeking comment Thursday. Jones said on his show Thursday that although InfoWars may no longer exist in 2 or 3 months, he will restart his broadcast on another platform. He'll have to build from scratch. He also said Lewis and Helseland's efforts in Texas State Court to go get some of his assets were illegal. That's some footage here of a train accident in Slovakia. Looks like a passenger train collided. You can see the smoke billowing and the flames, and people evacuating the train between Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
Celá predná časť vlaku. Dokázali sme vystúpiť, ako sme vyšli z Nových Zámkov.
About 5 people lost their lives in that. Speaking of other news about the January 6th riots, this is a very big story. I'm going to play a news clip here from NBC News.
News that could impact hundreds of people charged in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol and potentially former President Trump. The Supreme Court just ruled in favor of one of the rioters on January 6 over a charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. This decision is set to have a sweeping impact on hundreds of prosecutions, but this could especially impact Donald Trump after he cited the case in his bid to obtain presidential immunity in the election interference case against him. Laura Jarrett is by my side here. You've been through some of these pages. Dig a little deeper for us.
Okay, so here we go. So you have here a defendant in one of the January 6 cases who has been charged with a federal obstruction-related statute. He wanted the narrowest possible interpretation of that statute so that his conduct wouldn't be covered. Prosecutors have tried to stretch the statute as much as possible so that it would sweep in Mr. Fisher as well as many other defendants. And today, the High Court, in a divided opinion, has sided with Mr. Fisher, narrowing the statute. It does not mean all of the January 6 cases are going to be tossed out, but it does put the issue back in the lower court's hands to determine whether his conduct now meets this new rule. So we're going to continue to sift through this and understand exactly the scope of what is and isn't going to be covered. But we should mention here.
So basically, there's a chance a lot of the people that were convicted might have their guilties overturned. Oklahoma classrooms must have a Bible, state superintendent says. The Bible must be incorporated into public Oklahoma classrooms curriculums effective immediately according to a new directive the state superintendent announced Thursday. Why it matters. The order is the latest move amid growing white Christian nationalism. Why is that automatically Christian white nationalism? Even though I'm not a Christian. Why is it class? Why can't it just be Christian? Maybe black Christians want that too, and Spanish Christians. I'm sure they won't mind if there's a Bible in the classroom, but why is it classified only to white people? This also comes on the tail of Louisiana trying to put the 10 Commandments in every classroom. And it's a very touchy subject. As someone that's God believing, and I do believe in God, and I do believe in these books of God, and I do believe in the 10 Commandments, I also understand the American perspective of not pushing our lifestyles on anyone else, but it should be the same. You see, if something that someone chooses to do contradicts what I believe in and what I want to teach my children to believe in, then you should not have the right to teach them either. So I say we will push out alternate things that can affect anybody, whether it's religion or preferences in the bedroom. That's how we keep this all fair, and we don't hate each other. It's really, really simple. But if you're going to push certain lifestyles that may contradict what a religion teaches, then they have a right, because a religion is a way of life. It is a culture in its own. So whether we push mainstream religion or alternate lifestyles is what this used to be called before LGBTQ, whatever letters they have now. So the best way and the fairest way is to not allow either to push anything and to keep education to history, science, math, gym, dodgeball, you know, these things, and keep it neutral and let people decide how they want to educate their children about these subjects. That's the fairest solution. I've had enough of this bullshit back and forth. My last article is very interesting. South African researchers test use of nuclear technology to curb in rhino poaching. Okay, this is crazy when you think about it. Researchers in South Africa have injected radioactive material into the horns of 20 rhinos as part of a research project at reducing poaching. The idea is that radiation detectors already in place at national borders would detect the horns and help authorities arrest poachers. We are doing this because it makes it significantly easier to intercept those horns. They are being trafficked over. Okay, I understand why, but what about the harm? We're putting radioactive material into a living organism. And it's just horrific that human beings still take out the lives of these creatures just for their horns and soups and weird things that they believe in, when these animals can be extinct. And then it's just crazy what goes on in the world. In any event, we live in a very interesting world. This is another episode of Interesting Times. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check out every episode. And I've been on a lot of shows. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on all my social media. Let's do it. This is Bek Lover. Have a wonderful weekend. On the next episode of Interesting Times, Bek Lover on the Bek Lover Podcast.